I'm Terri O'Reilly. I'm a practicing sex therapist. We're going to talk today about 101 how to find a great therapist. Now, you're probably thinking about now, how really hard can it be? It's actually a lot more complicated than what you think. We have a chiropractor, we have a doctor, we have a physiotherapist, whoever they may be, and we don't always have to have that great rapport with them. We get in and out, get the service done, and we're on our way. Therapy is a little bit different. Therapy is largely about connection. We take ourselves into the therapy room. We take our own ideas, and you need to gel with that person that you're working with. And therapy can be a short-term or it can be a long-term process. So you really don't want to spend an hour every week with somebody that you're just not completely gelling with. After all, I can't imagine sitting there with Elmer Fudd for an hour thinking, I'm really going to get some therapeutic benefit here. So it's quite important to choose the right person. I've had a lot of clients come into this clinic and talk about the fact that they've seen another therapist and it just hasn't worked well for them. Let's have a look at Ted. Ted was a client that came to see me, highly functioning in every other area of his life, but he came because he thought he had premature ejaculation. He'd seen another therapist for 9 sessions and the issue just wasn't shifting, and he didn't feel he was getting anywhere, and he felt like he was wasting his money. So we had a little bit of a discussion about this, and it didn't take very long to establish that Ted felt from the time of penetration to his time of ejaculation during thrusting, he was lasting about 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes. And I said to him after gathering some more information, Ted, you know what? You don't have premature ejaculation. You fall into the perfectly normal time category. So imagine this, I'll challenge you to sit there for 3 minutes in silence and you'll realise just how long that actually is. It's quite a long time frame. So it falls into average. So I said to him, look, at the end of the day, I'm sorry about your past experience, but you're fine, you fall into average, go home, have fun, have a great day. So I hear stories like that all the time. And it's about, I guess, seeing people that don't have that high level of interest, that don't have that qualification. So therefore, they're not entirely comfortable working in those fields. So hence the reason it's really important to find a therapist that not only has the information, but as I said earlier, one that you really gel with. So first of all, start with your research. And of course, you'd research the website, you'd find out what the therapist's qualifications and area of interests are. And then the most important thing is if you can talk to the therapist on the phone, that's kind of, in my view, essential. I talk to every client I book into my sessions because, here's an example. I may have a client that'll call and say, I've got some sort of sexual dysfunction. But I also have a severe level of OCD, for example. Well, for me, I don't work with OCD, so therefore that client wouldn't be appropriate for me to work with. So it's about talking to that person on the phone. If you can, I understand every person runs their business differently. Clinicians are busy and that's not always possible. But if you can find a therapist that'll talk to you on the phone, and I'm not talking a big chat, just get a quick gauge on whether they're right for you, get a quick gauge on whether they sound like they just might get you. So first of all, you're looking for that connection. Next thing you might like to establish is what their qualifications are. Now that's not everything, because somebody might have worked in the sex therapy field for 40 years. And back in those days, there wasn't the same qualification levels that there are now. So don't worry too much about that, but you certainly want to check how long they've been doing this for, what continuous learning they do, are there any other projects they work on that contribute to their professional development, all of that sort of thing. Cost. Cost is another thing that needs to be suitable. It's no point if you choose a therapist that is simply out of your ability to pay for those sessions, because it will reduce the time or the frequency that you're happy to go. And therapy does require commitment to the process. Nothing happens in a vacuum. I guess a final point on the process is for you to appreciate 2 things. That one, you might not always like what the therapist has to say. I get permission from my clients up front to be kind of brutal because I have no desire to waste their money and time on kind of skirting around the issue. So you really need to appreciate that your therapist is not always going to say things about you or point things out that you might be doing or that your partner might be doing. It's not always going to sit well with you. So kind of look at that from an outsider's point of view and think, does that sound reasonable? I might not always like it, but maybe my therapist is simply being honest. And the last thing is, work as hard as your therapist. Make your therapist work hard for you, but you need to understand that therapy is about you making the commitment to change. And that requires hard work sometimes. It requires dedication to the process. And it might require you doing exercises in between the sessions. And it's kind of no point if you come back the following week and go, sorry, haven't worked on anything you gave me. That's kind of not going to help the therapist get great results for you. And it's about understanding you do need to row the boat as hard as he or she does.